8 great plays and a chance to get on the hallowed halls of Dean Crowe Theatre in Athlone in May. Is it possible to overcome severe dyslexia to become a Shakespearean actor? Yes, it is. And it's a musical, but maybe not as we know it. It is Encore on Midlands 103 and you're welcome to the show this evening. It's Claire O'Brien back in the hot seat, and thanks to the wonderful Zoe for keeping the seat warm last week while I spent a few days away in glorious Venice, which is absolutely good for the soul. Well, we're back to rainy reality in Tullamore today, but we have a great show for you. And somebody who's also back in Tullamore is John Nyagam. And John is originally from Tullamore, has moved around a little bit in his life and has lived in places as far afield as New Zealand and London. But he is producing a play that is coming to the Esker Arts Centre this night week, and he'll be joining us to talk about that. It's called Word Against the Word, and it features Keith Dunphy, and we'll be chatting about that a little bit later with John. Also chatting to me this evening is Joan Larkin from Athlone Musical Society, because they are putting on The Witches of Eastwick as their 2026 Musical Society presentation, and it's going to be just fantastic. It sounds incredible. I was talking to Joan recently and really looking forward to bringing that chat with her, because it sounds like it's going to be such an exciting production. And another exciting series of productions will be starting in Mountmellick very soon, because it is time once again for the only of the qualifying rounds for the All Ireland Drama Festival that happens in the Midlands, and that is the Mountmellick Drama Festival. It brings 8 plays to the stage, and the MC for the whole performance, the whole show, the whole series of 8 plays will be Pádraig O'Toole, who'll be joining us to chat us through those and tell us a little bit about the adjudicator and what we can expect. We are going to start, however, as we always do, with some brand new music. And what have we got for you tonight? Well, we've 2, something very local, something a little bit less local, something a bit modern, something a little bit more folky. We have tonight Shawnee Birmingham, who is from Tipperary but lives in Dublin, and his song is called Don't Be Worrying About Me, and we'll bring you that in a second. But before that, I know you'll be delighted to hear there's more new music from The Academic, and this is Figure It Out. You're listening to Encore on Midlands 103. Isn't that gorgeous? That is Shawnee Birmingham's Don't Be Worrying About Me. And he is from Tipperary but based in Dublin, and fabulous folk musician. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back it will be to have a chat with Pádraig O'Toole, who is sitting opposite me again. I think we're going to have to get you in it once a month, Pádraig, because it wouldn't be right not to be having you in here more often. But we'll be chatting about the Mountmellick Drama Festival, and that is just in a couple of minutes. Stay with us. You're listening to Encore on Midlands 103. Midlands 103. And you're very welcome back to Encore. 083 30 10 is the Lamb Brothers Midlands 103 text line. And we got a message there from Jane to let us know that Rosenallis National School have won the All Ireland VEX Robotics Championship in MTU in Cork today, which is, as she says, an absolutely super achievement for all who are involved in STEAM and STEM. So well done to all in Rosenallis National School. And 083 30 10 103, the number if you want to get in touch with us on the programme tonight. My guest in studio, sitting right in front of me, is the wonderful Pádraig O'Toole. Welcome back, Pádraig.
Thanks, Claire. We'll have to stop meeting like this.
We'll have to stop meeting like this. But we'll make the best of it while we can.
We will.
You're here to talk to us about the All Ireland Drama Festival, which is kicking off next week, the Mountmellick round of it, which is which will bring 8 plays from drama groups around the country who are hoping to get enough points to add to their total that will eventually bring them to the All Ireland. How many years is this now, Pádraig?
This is, I think we're about 37 years running, but we missed 1 year through COVID and we missed a year through foot and mouth. But other than that, we're running since 1987, I think was our first year, and we've been running pretty consistently since then. So yes, 6th of March, the stage is set, the players are ready, the groups are travelling, and we're ready to kick off. We have what we think is a lovely programme actually this year. It's a mix of some of the old plays that have been seen quite a number of times on the circuit, and we have a few new plays and a few exciting presentations to bring to the stage. So we think it's going to be a really good week, kicking off tomorrow night week in the Community Arts Centre in Montmellick.
Fantastic. So we'll start with the two John B. Keane plays, because John B. Keane, so popular. And there's going to be one probably quite traditional performance and one that'll be a little bit quirkier, maybe a little bit more modern in its interpretation.
It'll certainly be a stylised presentation. Yeah, we have two this year. We have Sive and we have The Year of the Hiker. Sive being John B. Keane's first success. He wrote it in 1959, and actually at the time no professional company would take it, and he gave it to the Listowel Players, who were his local play group, who took it on the circuit, the amateur drama circuit back then, and it went all the way to the final and won the All-Ireland final, and it was John B. Keane's first successful outing with a play. So that just shows you the standing that the amateur drama circuit has in the country and how it can influence careers. And it's great for us. We have that one back now. That's been performed for us by Dalkey Players. Dalkey are regular visitors to us in Montmellick.
They are, aren't they?
Emma Jane Nulty, their director, always does something bright and stylish and exciting with scripts, and she really brings them to life. This will be a little bit interesting this year in that Sive is on the Leaving Cert curriculum this year.
It is.
So it will be a good opportunity for anybody who is reading Sive or even using Sive as a comparator on the English course to get a view of it and to see where that it's not necessarily a play stuck back in the 50s.
No,
it can
very
be
much
done
not.
in the modern idiom. It's still relevant and it's still there.
Yeah.
So that's one of John B. Keane's, and the other one that we have then is The Year of the Hiker.
Which well, I suppose it's popular around this part of the country, isn't it? It comes around every now and again.
Comes around every now and again. It was he wrote this one in 1963, so he had it was one of a succession of plays that he actually put out. He had Highest House on the Mount and Rain at the End of Summer, and this came out at that point. Never had the same success or popularity as Sive, but nonetheless it has stood the test of time. Wonderful play again. There's a consistency in Keane's stuff in that he touches on that kind of cruelty that exists in Irish families and kind of in Irish communities, and that comes out. Now, I don't know whether he deliberately did that or whether that's the way we are as Irish people. But like the story of the hiker is the hiker Lacey, who abandoned his family and he just shagged off, took to the road and travelled around, and then totally unannounced arrived back in the middle of a huge family event. His daughters was about to get married, but he hadn't been around for her rearing or for her, for any contribution to it. And he comes back and walks into the middle of this. So you can imagine the turmoil when this Knight of the Road arrives back in the middle of this special occasion. But it does test the loyalties that exist between families. Like, that no matter how people go away, there's still the tie, there's still the family. There was an old saying, everybody's from somewhere, even if you've never been there. So we all tie back to home. And that's really what he gets in The Hiker, as opposed to that cruelty to the child that exists in Sive, where at that time the children there was no regard for children. They had no standing, and they were to be married off or sold off or whatever it was. And again, topical enough in terms of what we're dealing with still.
Such poverty. Such absolute grinding poverty.
So that's John B.
And this is Upstage Players, and they were only formed 2 years ago.
Yes, they're from Claremorris. They had their first ever circuit outing with us in Montmellick back 3 years ago now. And they have been to, I think, every All-Ireland final since. They have won in Montmellick and they have qualified for finals. So a very, very successful group on the confined circuit, and lovely people as well. I have a soft spot for Claremorris, lived there for a couple of years, so we're delighted to have them back again in Montmellick.
So we'll have a chat then about Da, because of all of the plays, I suppose, that people love to see, they keep coming back to those traditional ones, the ones that they've seen over and over again, or that have a special place in their memory that they saw with their mammy or their granny, or they remember, for example, seeing an interview with Hugh Leonard. And I think Hugh Leonard at one point has some kind of a Mount Mellick connection as well, didn't he?
Hugh Leonard's father worked for the Jacobs family in Killiney in Dublin, who would have been related to some of the older traditional families in Mount Mellick. And they holidayed in Mount Mellick, not John B. Key, not Hugh Leonard, but his the people his father worked for, Holiday and O'Malley, and he regularly referred to O'Malley. I don't know whether you're probably not long enough around to remember he wrote a column in the Irish Independent, the Curmudgeon, and he regularly referred to O'Malley, and particularly if he's someplace that was unknown, he'd refer to it as being halfway on the road to O'Malley.
Okay.
And he regularly dipped in. So yeah, there is a O'Malley connection. But the play, it's a beautiful play. It was by far his finest play. And like the character Da, you just fall in love with. And that whole scenario of Charlie coming back from England, the father has died, he comes back to clear out the house, but the father's presence is still there, and he relives part of his life.
Yeah.
And there's some wonderful poignant moments. There's there's very funny moments in it when they bounce off one another and they go back to parts of Charlie's life which are replayed, with real characters on the stage. It's a beautiful way of tackling retrospective on the stage. To go back. How do you perform your life in history, and that's how it's done. It's really a lovely play. It has a bit of everything.
Yeah.
It has, but Da is a lovable character in it, as is Charlie the son. It's really good, and you have the Yellow Pearl. You have all the characters that trot out in it.
Yeah, and that have that kind of familiarity. So those are the old faithfuls in terms of plays. But if people want to have an opportunity to see something a little bit different, those opportunities are there as well. Now, Chapati has made it to the All-Ireland before, as far as I'm aware. Yeah. It's a play that comes around every now and again. This is a Christian O'Reilly play, and very moving in its own way.
Yeah, it's a romance. It's a love story. It is an absolutely beautiful love story between Dan and Betty. They're two people approaching at the later stages in life.
Yeah.
On their own, kind of facing into a life of isolation and insulation, and like really by accident they come together. And you say, like, how could you find a more kind of an obtuse coming together of a guy with a dog and a woman with 17 cats? Like if there's ever going to be trouble. But no, they come together and they actually rescue one another from loneliness. And it's one of these plays that really it takes you in. It actually brings you into the action, and you will feel so much for the two characters as the relationships develop and as Betty tries to help Dan through his crisis. And it touches on it. There's a few touchy spots in it, and it deals with kind of how we approach that aging and loneliness. And can you still be in love at 70? Of course you can, I would say.
Yeah. But I hope so.
But it's a beautifully constructed play. Like Christian O'Reilly's work, he was The Good Father was another play of his that has appeared on the circuit quite a number of times. He also did a lot of writing for television, Casualty, Holby City, stuff like that. He did episodes. I don't know. There's a film, if you might recall it, Inside I'm Dancing.
That was Brenda talking to somebody about that the other day.
It's a gorgeous film set in Dublin about disability. But it's just that type of lovable writing that he produces, and lovable characters, and the real characters, and you can just get involved with them. And I can tell you there'll be tears shed in that,
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's a great play for people who who kind of maybe have old favourites in the theatre and maybe don't go beyond the old favourites. This is one that will become an old favourite.
For sure. This will be done in years to come.
Okay.
And that's with us on the Saturday night. Now, the next night, on Sunday night of the festival, we have a real treat, because down through the years we've always tried to have new groups, new plays, new authors, new adjudicators, and it's been a while since we've had a new group and a new play and a new author all wrapped up in one. And it's Fermora Productions. They're a brand new theatre company started up here in Tullamore. Yep. Patrick Fogarty is the author, and he's directing the play as well. And we really, really are excited to have it, and we're looking forward to it. And again, it has a local connection. The play is set in a cabin up in the Slieve Bloom Mountains. Yeah. Depending on when the play is famous, probably Laois and Offaly will fight over whether it's set in Laois or in Offaly. But for now, let's just say it's up the mountains. And it's based around a situation where a man loses his wife tragically in a fire. And he really has a blame chip on his shoulder about that. And he goes chasing for revenge and for cause and for justification. And why did all of this happen? Yeah. And he ends up, taking two people into this cabin. And he literally is holding them hostage, and it goes through all of the emotions around what he has been through. Yeah. And that's what works through, and that's what transpires. And again, like where Patrick Fogarty, the author himself, will say he has taken some of his ideas from Beckett, from Kraft's Last Tape. I think when you see the kind of the plot and the way it's constructed, there's probably a bit of Martin McDonagh in there somewhere as well.
Okay.
So there is a bit of black humour. There's a bit of everything in it. But we are really excited to have a new play on the stage, and we would really encourage people to come and support that and show love and encouragement for people who are working in the creative arts and bringing new stuff to us.
Locally especially.
Sure.
The following night then is The Outgoing Tide, which is it's a beautiful family play. Another one that has been in the All-Ireland final. And this time it is coming from Slievaughty players, and they are in Clare.
Mount Shannon and Clare is where they're from. Between Scariff and Mount Shannon, they're a group. Again, they're a group. They're consistent high performers. They consistently get through to the final. We only bring the best to Mount Mellick. And thankfully,
that's how it works out year after year, isn't it?
We get them back. We have the venue. We have the stage. Like people can try things in Mount Mellick that they can't necessarily on some of the smaller stages.
Yeah.
So we get some of the big shows. We get the good shows in for that reason. This is by Bruce Graham, an American writer. He's a teacher in Drexel University. Any Given Monday would be another of his works. Like, he wouldn't be that well known on this side of the ocean. This is a play that's quite topical as well. It deals with Gunnar. He's a lorry driver in America, driver in America. Drives his truck for his living. He goes boating for his leisure, goes fishing out in the bay, but he's suffering from Alzheimer's. And he knows he's on the way out, and he is struggling to provide for his wife and son, for his family. And he hatches a scheme in terms of how he's going to make that provision. But it is really that struggle with end of life, and is it legitimate to take things into your own hands? And again, a topic that is live
so
today.
Current.
It is so live today. It's the action he takes now wouldn't be. It wouldn't be condoned by any insurance company, let's say. I don't want to be a total spoiler on it,
don't.
But he has plans, and the dilemma then, he is absolutely convinced that he's doing the right thing and that he's entitled to do it. But his wife and son are battling because life is precious and people want to hold on to it, and they're there in the dilemma: do they frustrate him, or do they help him, or do they cooperate with him, or how do they handle the decisions that he has made and foisted on them? It's a touching play. It's a touching play. It's a tough play, but it is really, really good. And we expect Slievaughty will do a cracking job with it.
Okay, we're going to skip through the next two. Nina Players are doing The Savage Shop by Jim Nolan. Phenomenal theatre group down there. That's going to be very exciting. And then Seamus O'Rourke's From Under the Bed is coming from Galway, and that's on this fortnight. Yep. And that's also going to be really interesting. Tell us a little bit about that one, maybe briefly.
That one,
and then we'll chat about Jeff.
Seamus O'Rourke again would have started his theatrical career on the amateur drama circuit. He was with the Cornmill Players up in Carrigallen. He's from Carrigallen. He's a Leitrim writer, so he's kind of lining up with the tradition of John McGahern and Michael Harding and Brian Layden and some of those people.
In his own way, in his own humorous, inimitable way.
He's in good company. And again, I would have a certain affinity with Leitrim. So,
you would, of course, yeah.
So I would know some of the lyricism and the idioms of the language, but he writes very much in his community, and they're very much rural based shows. He works very much. He does one man shows. He tours the country. He does monologues. He does lots of work like that. Published 2 books last year. I think it was. Leaning on Gates and Standing in Gaps were the 2 books that he published last year. Yeah. But this was a play that started out as a shorter play. It started out on the one-act circuit, and he has extended. It's very similar to Malik McKenna's The Quiet Land. It's 2 old farmers, but living isolated in the rural area, barely speak to anybody, barely talk to anybody. But it's a contrived situation where they end up in the bedroom at night. Where one knocks on the door to talk to the other in the bedroom, and the next thing it all explodes from there.
Okay.
And it's quite. There's a bit of pathos in it, but there's a strong bit of humour in it, and there's a naturalness to the language and the talk that's in it. It's an easy play to watch and an easy play to listen. And again, new to us, we're looking forward to it.
Okay. We're going to have to finish it up, unfortunately, because it'd be great to have a minute to talk about Jeff O'Keefe, who is going to be adjudicating in Mountmellick for the first time, but very experienced, and people will have an opportunity to hear his take on things after the plays, which start on Friday next, which is the 6th of March, with the Year of the Hiker. And then we'll catch up with you maybe next week, just briefly, to find out where things are at. And I get a little bit of a sense maybe of Jeff and what Jeff is doing. But Pádraig, thanks as always for coming in to talk to us.
Thank you. Pleasure.
It's always a pleasure, and we hope people will make their way to Mountmellick to catch some of these plays.
Yeah, they'll get value for money on the 3 nights, and the next 5 will be free after that.
On the season ticket, which is great value. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claire.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it'll be to talk to John Nyagam about the production that he is bringing to the Encore Arts Centre next week. Midlands 103. John Nyagam left Tullamore after being in school in the CBS. He went to London, he went backpacking, and while he was in New Zealand, he got to thinking about doing an acting course. In Wellington, he did classes and productions and ended up writing and even did some work in the States. He's based in London. He has performed in Blue Lights, he's performed in Emmerdale and more. And now that his kids are growing up a small bit, he is coming back to acting and to a newish production company from 2024. It's called Watering Hole Productions, and that allows him, in his own words, to support others and enable others to bring their performances to the stage. And that is what brings him back to Tullamore with Word Against the Word, which is a play devised and performed by Keith Dunphy. And it is Keith's story of living with severe dyslexia and how he didn't let that get in the way of him becoming an acclaimed actor. It is inspiring and it is entertaining in equal measure. And I was chatting to John a little bit earlier, and we pick up the story about him taking on Word Against the Word, which is in the Encore Arts Centre this night week.
It wasn't just the fact that, myself and Keith got on well and we were enjoying working together. It was the story. The story of, a fella same age as me, growing up in Waterford, being heavily dyslexic, not being able to read in school or anything like that, but yet being so articulate with Shakespearean text. And actually, that kind of that neurodiverse angle of actually understanding that you can be really, really articulate and really get into the resonance of words without actually being able to read. It's almost like, well, that's a strong theme. But then also what really drew me to it was, he went from Waterford and was educated in RADA in London, which obviously is not cheap, but actually the whole acting community in Waterford got behind him. When he said, listen, I'm from a working class background, I can't afford to do this. The whole community got together and raised funds to pay for him to come over. And you just kind of think, well, that's a really inspiring story. Like, that's the kind of thing that people should see on stage and go, you know what, that's inspiring. I want to do that. I can help this person do that in some way. And I just thought it was great.
So the gist of this is that it is about his experience with dyslexia, but also linking it very much to Shakespeare and one of the great Shakespearean plays, Richard II.
Yeah, there's a speech in Richard II, which, it's peppered along his story because he's very passionate. That's his favourite play. But also there's a really strong link with Richard II and Waterford, where he grew up. It's peppered throughout the play. The dyslexia is the initial question he asks, but actually it's just a really entertaining story of a young lad following his dreams and kind of, we all have obstacles and kind of challenges on our journeys, right? And he has his, and he just kind of he unpicks those nicely and has a laugh with them. But he really kind of, I suppose he explores a few forms of theatre as well in terms of, audiences get involved. Audiences aren't, remote from this play. And he's very good at that. He's a wonderful, yes, he's a skilled Shakespearean performer, but actually he's a really good entertainer as well. So he really kind of he brings the crowd into it and brings them on a journey with him.
It's interesting that, we very often see one-man shows where an actor writes about something that's really important to them and brings that story to life on the stage in the medium that they know best. But it's interesting to see an actor bringing the story of acting to the stage and having all of those skills. There's something quite meta about it, isn't there?
Oh, there is. And actually, I think, Keith, he did ask himself a couple of times, why would anybody care about this? If you weren't an actor, why would you care about it? But I guess it's like, no matter whether we want to be, an engineer or a teacher or an actor or whatever, if it's your story and you share it in that kind of, open human way, then people engage with it. But there is, you're right, Claire, in terms of like, there are some technical elements that he discusses and has a laugh with again in the play. Things like, all the vocal warm-ups and things like that. Things that, in your day-to-day life, you'd never think about at all. But actually it's meat and potatoes for actors. But actually, I've seen the show a lot of times now, but never is there not like a good laugh at that point from people who know nothing about acting. Go, jeez, Christ, these grown people, this is what they do as actors to warm up, or this is the routines they go through. And it's funny to see people going through their process, isn't it?
Yeah, and I suppose also all of those layers of meaning with the idea of an actor and having a voice, but having a voice in your own accent, to speak in your own way in Shakespeare, or to be able to take words that you might find a struggle to read, but to be still able to articulate. There's lots of those nice levels going on, and lots of humour in it as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're touching on something there that both of us as Irish actors are quite passionate about. In terms of, you when you're doing auditions and you're doing self-tapes, oftentimes you're, you'd say to the cast director, would you mind if I did this in my Irish accent just to see how it might work? But obviously with English kings in Shakespeare, the opportunity to do it in your own accent is difficult. It's rare. But he was very insistent as an experienced professional, that he thought, well, no, that there is an angle to doing this, so he does lean into that, both in his own career, but also in the play as well. He does touch on that. And there is comedy in that, because invariably, English directors would listen to him doing this, going, well, hang on a second, there's no way Julius Caesar or whoever can sound like he's from Waterford, because that's kind of crazy on one level. But actually, really, are we? Americans do it. I mean, sure, it's done in Chinese, like Shakespeare is done in Chinese and in every different language.
Well, it wasn't originally done in received pronunciation either, so there's that element of it as well. You're very proud to be bringing this to the stage in your own hometown, and I know you'll be looking forward to catching up with lots of people locally, and there'll be a huge local support for the performance.
I hope so. You can never kind of assume that people will engage with these things, but I know. Listen, I've been in touch with a good lot of friends who are back there, and they're going to come along, which is great. My aunt as well is going to come along. I haven't seen her in a couple of years now, so that's brilliant too. So yeah, look, it's to have Esker Arts there. It's such a wonderful facility, and kind of I suppose I know what Sean is trying to do there, and if I can kind of contribute in any way, shape, or form to doing that, to just keep trying to bring good shows that appeal to people, to build that community, because that's what theatre is community. And I think if anything that I can do to contribute to that would be great, because if you bring 50 people to a play, at least one or two will walk out of there and go, I never went to a play before, but I really enjoyed that, and I'll come again.
And please God, they will come again, and why wouldn't they? That is John Nyagam, who is coming home to Tullamore with his theatre company's production of Word Against the Word, devised and performed by Keith Duffy. Dunphy indeed, and that is next Thursday night in the Esker Arts Centre. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it is to the Witches of Eastwick in Athlone.
Midlands 103.
It is musical season and we just love it here on Encore on Midlands 103. And next month, can you believe next month is almost here? Starting on Tuesday night, the 3rd of March and running until Saturday the 7th of March, Athlone Musical Society are bringing the Witches of Eastwick to the stage at Dean Crowe Theatre. Why the Witches of Eastwick? That's a great question. It is one that I asked to Joan Larkin when I spoke to her very recently.
Well, I suppose at this point we have an awful lot of shows done, and it's the same thing every year. We kind of gather around the table and we say, okay, what is next for us to do? And it's difficult because, as I said, we've done so many stage productions over the years. You are fairly limited in what your choices are. You know, people come to you and say, oh, I'd love you to do the Phantom of the Opera, or I'd love you to do Blood Brothers. Not possible, because those rights, you know, on certain shows are just not available for amateur productions.
Of course.
So when you go through your list, The Witches of Eastwick was on a short list for a number of years. And then you go and you decide, okay, I'm going to do this show. And all of a sudden the rights have been taken away. So when they came back on the market as such, and when they were up for grabs, decided, okay, let's go for this, because as I said, we've been talking about it maybe for, I'd say, about 3 to 4 years. So when it came for grabs from Music Theatre International, we just decided to go for it and decide to stage that in the next few weeks.
Okay. Because sometimes what happens is a musical society will look at the talent that they have in any given year. But you had decided in advance that you were going to do the Witches of Eastwick, and then you put the call out for the auditions, which in its own way is a brave move.
It is, but I suppose at the same time, you do at the same time consider, okay, we have this person, that person, we have an X amount of cast, but there's always a recycle every year. There's always different cast members, especially in the chorus, and of course in leading principal roles too. But you'll never ever have the same cast in a few years in a row. You'll never have consecutive years. But you'll have majority. But this year I do find it is, and last year I suppose as well, I do find that it's relatively new. If somebody came into a room during rehearsal, let's say, and they hadn't been around for 6-7 years, they wouldn't really know a lot of the cast members, because a lot of them are quite young now, coming up, and quite young to me now is in their 20s. You know, so there you go.
So the 4 top roles are Daryl Van Horn, and then the 3 witches, who are Alexandra and Jane and Suki, and they're played by Art McGowan, Linda Murray, Petrova Mulvey and Charisse O'Moore. Tell us about those characters and tell us about those performers.
Well, those performers, I suppose, when people think of, we'll say Alexandra, they would think straight away of the film Cher, and they would relate to Cher. So that is the part that Linda Murray is playing. And then Susan Sarandon would have been Jane in the film. This is how I used to refer to it when I was reading the script first, and that's God a while ago. And Susan Sarandon is played by now in the stage production Petrova Mulvey, and then the younger witch, as it were, even though was played by Michelle Pfeiffer in the film, and now this is Charisse O'Moore. So when you think of Witches of Eastwick, and you think of, okay, how are we going to decorate the theatre? It's certainly not witches, and it's not witches' outfits, and it's not Halloweeny. No. It's absolutely nothing at all. It's 3 women who are living in a small town called Eastwick, and Eastwick is fictional, but I think it was filmed in Massachusetts or something like that.
Yes.
So these are women that are just bored with their small town lives. But there's another character in it called Felicia Gabrielle. I actually don't really know how the Americans pronounce that.
Yes.
And that's also played by a girl called Jay Oregon. She's new to our society.
But not new to musical theatre.
No. She has done numerous shows with Clara Musical Society and Tullamore Musical Society, but never Athlone. She's making her debut with Athlone this year.
So Art
So
McGowan,
they're the main characters, and of course, Daryl Van Horn, of course, is played by Art McGowan. I don't know Art myself. I've met him. I've seen him. He hails from Clane, and he's playing that devilish role of Dal Van Horn,
and he has
which
a
was played by
great
Jack
part.
Nicholson.
It's a great part.
Oh, that is, you see, I suppose for those listening and for those that don't know it, the part of Dal Van Horn is kind of, it's dark, and I suppose described as, what would you say, an all manner of man in one man. It's kind of meaning that it describes somebody with huge adaptability and understanding and connection with people, with all walks of life. But it's a kind of a dark connection. And these three girls share this desire that they want to bring a little bit of excitement and variety into the town. And all of a sudden, because at the end of the day, it is all about magic and the powers and all the rest, this man literally arrives in a flash into this town, a devil-like character. And
but
he seduces these women.
Yeah, very seductive, very
seductive, yeah. Very, very, very seductive. He seduces these women and he teaches them powers that, well, I suppose that they never really knew they had. I mean, it's off the wall stuff, if you want to say, really. But what happens with the three women?
You wouldn't want to think too much about what's below the surface in any woman, would you?
Well, no. A lot of these storylines, really, there's not an awful lot behind. But what happens is they become a foursome in this town and they create a huge, huge scandal. And there's a big, big number in the show, and I think every cast member is in this show, and it's called Dirty Laundry. And Felicity, who is, I suppose, the do-gooder, and she's kind of like, she's the town is presided by her. And what she tries to do is kind of clean up the dirty laundry, meaning get rid of these three girls and Daryl. She wants them out of town. And hence there's a big, big dance number called Dirty Laundry. And it backfires on her, and Felicia and her husband kind of disappear. They die all of a sudden. And then now the girls are trying to get rid of Daryl, and this is kind of promising to be a bit of a task. Hence, the story goes on.
And it's dark and it's funny and it is riotously entertaining.
Well, it's romantic as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's romantic as well. And of course, it's pure fantasy.
Mm.
It's pure fantasy. I mean, it's dark comedy. It's adult. I suppose it's all. It's just romantic, and there's a tale of these girls seducing a man, basically.
Yeah.
And so I suppose I'd call it adult dark comedy, really.
Yeah, and entertaining and
entertaining. And now it's a while since I've seen the film, actually, but I've been over at a few rehearsals, and they're having good fun with it. And so we now open on the 3rd of March. So now this year, another little experiment for Athlone Musical Society. We open on the 3rd and we close on the 7th inclusive. So now we're winding down out to 5 performances.
Okay.
So
and why is that?
The theatre, because the capacity is quite large. The capacity is about 444.
Mm.
And you multiply that then by what we were doing, 7 nights. You're over 3,000. It is very, very difficult to fill 3,000 seats or more.
Yeah.
So now we've condensed and reduced it to 5, and it seems to be working so far because it's filling fast.
Brilliant. And it is absolutely selling fast because it is going to be a terrific, terrific, terrific show. My sincere thanks there to Joan Larkin from Athlone Musical Society. You can hear her enthusiasm for the show and her enjoyment of the rehearsals, and what a terrific storyline it is, what drama there's in it, what excitement is in it. It's going to be probably a slightly grown-up show, but one that is really going to be worth getting along to see in the Dean Crow Theatre in Athlone. That is it from me for this evening. Thank you so much for the pleasure of your company. It's been lovely to be with you this evening. I think the great Joe Cooney is in the building. I think I heard him rambling around there. And he'll be with you after the news at 8 o'clock with the best of Irish and American country music. I'll be back in this seat again next week with more of what's happening in the arts in Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Encore@midlands103.com is the email. Please do drop me a line. I'd be delighted to hear from you. Until we're here again, take care of yourself. Good night.